For more than 50 years, fans believed they knew everything about Kowalski's legendary white Challenger. The speed, the engine, the myth. But the truth is far stranger. Because the car you saw tearing across the desert wasn't always a 440RT. It wasn't even always the same car. And one of those vehicles didn't survive a stunt so violent that Dodge quietly requested the studio to stop using real Challengers for destruction shots. So here's the question no one talks about. Why did the production rely on 5 different cars, each with its own hidden flaw? Why did a stunt driver complain that the camera tricks made the Challenger look faster than physics would allow? And why is the final explosion scene considered one of the biggest automotive deceptions in Hollywood history? Today, we open a classified file, a countdown of 20 strange, conflicting, unbelievable facts. Facts that reveal a hidden side of the Vanishing Point Challenger, built not on horsepower, but on secrets, improvisation, and pure cinematic illusion. This is the story behind a muscle car that became more than a movie prop. It became a symbol of rebellion and a legend forged in the dust of the American West. Number 20. The Challenger was not the first choice. Most fans assume the 1970 Challenger RT was the obvious and only choice for Vanishing Point. But early production notes tell a very different story. The studio originally wanted a 1969 Camaro cheaper, easier to find, and familiar to stunt drivers. The switch only happened because Dodge was aggressively promoting the brand new Challenger and offered the crew multiple cars at almost no cost. This wasn't an artistic decision. It was a marketing ambush. The Challenger became a star not because it was chosen, but because Dodge pushed it onto the production. And ironically, that last-minute change is what created one of the most iconic movie cars in American cinema. Number 19. Dodge provided 5 free cars. The production didn't buy the cars. Dodge delivered 5 brand-new Challengers directly from the factory, each configured slightly differently. It was part of an aggressive marketing move. Dodge wanted real desert footage, real speed, real dust, and a hero car that looked unstoppable. By giving the production multiple cars, they ensured every stunt could be attempted without hesitation. A jump breaks the suspension? Switch cars. A drivetrain overheats in Nevada? Switch cars. One car needs interior stripped for camera rigs? No problem. This free fleet changed everything. Instead of a single hero car, Vanishing Point became a controlled chaos of 5 nearly identical machines, all contributing pieces to the legend. Number 18. The cars had different white paint shades. Fans always describe Kowalski's Challenger as pure white, but freeze-frame the film and the truth becomes obvious. The 5 cars were painted in slightly different shades. Some appear bright alpine white under the sun, while others shift toward cream or beige depending on the film stock and filters used. The differences weren't intentional. Dodge delivered cars from different production batches, and the desert light exaggerated every variation. In several scenes, 2 cars used back-to-back don't match at all, yet the speed and editing hide the inconsistency. What viewers remember as a single, flawless white Challenger was actually a patchwork illusion created by lighting, dust, and rushed 1,970 seconds color grading. Number 17. One car was a 383, not a 440. For decades, fans believed every Vanishing Point car was a fire-breathing 440 Magnum RT, but one of the 5 cars wasn't even close. Production records confirm that a 383 model Challenger, cheaper, lighter, and less powerful, was quietly mixed into the lineup for certain wide shots and long-distance desert runs. The difference was invisible on camera, especially when covered in dust, but stunt drivers knew instantly. The 383 pulled softer, revved differently, and behaved more predictably on uneven terrain. Ironically, this imposter car performed some of the smoothest shots in the entire film. It's one of the biggest contradictions of Vanishing Point. The scenes fans assume were pure 440 muscle were sometimes done by the weakest engine in the fleet. Number 16. The cars used automatic transmissions. One of the most persistent myths is that Kowalski's Challenger was a 4-speed manual. It fits the fantasy, a lone driver row knotting gears through the desert at high speed. But the movie cars were automatics. Barry Newman wasn't experienced with high-speed manual driving, and stunt legend Kerry Lofton insisted that automatics were safer and more predictable for long drifting shots. The studio agreed. Every major stunt was performed with a TorqueFlite automatic, allowing the drivers to focus on steering precision rather than shifting. What fans interpret as flawless manual driving is actually the effortless surge of an automatic transmission, doing exactly what the film needed: smooth power, less risk, and total control. Number 15. The speed on screen was enhanced. Many viewers still swear the Challenger Vanishing Point accelerates faster than any stock 1,970 muscle car could. And they're right, because the speed isn't real. The crew used several tricks, shooting at slightly higher frame rates, dropping to lower transmission gears, and even removing frames during editing to create snap acceleration that no real Challenger could achieve. Stunt drivers openly admitted the car felt quick, but nowhere near the blistering speed shown on screen. The illusion was necessary to turn Kowalski into a near-mythic figure, a man outrunning the world. The truth? The desert wasn't being conquered by raw horsepower. It was conquered by clever 1,970 seconds camera work. Number 14. The cars were stripped for more speed. Even with a 440 Magnum, the Challenger wasn't naturally as fast as the movie made it look. To compensate, the crew removed anything that added unnecessary weight: passenger seats, interior panels, carpet, sound deadening, even parts of the dashboard. Some cars had their bumpers lightened or swapped for thinner ones. With hundreds of pounds shaved, the cars accelerated noticeably quicker, especially in desert conditions where traction was inconsistent. The stripped-down interiors also made room for camera mounts and reinforced bars, turning each car into a hybrid stunt machine. What appears on screen as factory muscle is actually a gutted, optimized shell built for one purpose: speed on command. Number 13. Each car had custom suspension tuning. Most movie productions standardize their stunt cars for consistency, but Vanishing Point did the opposite. Each Challenger had its suspension tuned for a specific type of shot. One car sat slightly higher for rough terrain, another was lowered for highway speed tracking shots. One had stiffer shocks to survive small jumps, while another used softer settings to amplify body roll during dramatic turns. This meant that no two cars handled the same, and only the stunt team truly knew which vehicle to use for each scene. On screen, they all appear identical. Behind the scenes, each was a specialized tool built for either stability, violence, or cinematic flair. Number 12. The interiors were mostly removed. Vanishing Point features unique interior shots that make viewers feel like they're sitting beside Kowalski. But to get those angles, the crew had to transform the Challenger's cabin into a skeleton. Seats were removed. Door panels gone. Center consoles ripped out. Some cars had floors partially cut to allow low-mounted cameras. Others had roll bars welded in, turning the interior into a cramped but functional film cage. These modifications made the cars louder, hotter, and more unstable, but they allowed cinematographers to capture the raw, rattling energy of the desert chase. What looks like a clean, intact cockpit on screen was often a hollow metal shell with barely enough space for a driver and a 1,970 seconds film camera. Number 11. The engine sound was dubbed. The Challenger's roar is one of the most unforgettable elements of Vanishing Point, but most of that sound never came from the cars on set. The real vehicles, especially the lighter stunt versions, often produced inconsistent engine noise due to stripped interiors, altered exhaust systems, and desert conditions. To fix this, the sound team recorded separate audio from a tuned 440 running on a test track, then layered, stretched, and exaggerated it in the studio. In several scenes, the on-screen speed doesn't even match the rev pattern you hear. The result is a mythic, almost supernatural growl that fans associate with Kowalski's car. What became iconic wasn't the real engine, but the perfect cinematic illusion of one. Number 10. Low camera angles created speed illusion. Much of the Challenger's perceived speed comes not from horsepower, but from camera placement. The cinematographers frequently mounted cameras inches above the pavement, a risky technique that magnifies motion dramatically. A 50 miles per hour's cruise suddenly looks like 90 miles per hour. The slight shake of the steering wheel becomes a violent struggle for control. Combined with wide lenses and desert vibration, the effect transforms normal acceleration into something ferocious. Stunt drivers admitted the car often wasn't moving as fast as audiences assume. The camera simply made everything look more extreme. This technique became so influential that later car films, especially in the 1,980 seconds, copied it directly. Number 9. Desert heat caused constant overheating. Shooting long-distance chases in the Nevada and Utah deserts exposed a major problem. The Challengers overheated constantly. The stripped interiors made heat bleed into the cabin, while the high-rev driving demanded for stunt shots pushed coolant systems to their limit. Crews often had to idle cars with hoods open between takes or swap vehicles mid-shoot. Some stunt cars had makeshift modifications like temporary radiator shrouds or richer fuel mixtures to keep temperatures down just long enough to finish a scene. These fixes weren't pretty, but they were necessary. Without them, half the movie's iconic chase shots would have ended in steam clouds instead of dust trails. Number 8. Some scenes used cars with outside windows. To capture certain interior and over-shoulder shots, the crew removed not just the door panels, but sometimes the side windows entirely. With the glass gone, cameras could sit inches from Barry Newman's face without reflections or distortion. But this created a new problem. The desert air blasted directly into the cabin at high speed, filling the driver's eyes with sand and making steering extremely difficult. Stunt drivers said that at 60 miles per hour without side glass, the wind felt like getting punched by the atmosphere. Yet the results were worth it. Those raw, wind-rattled close-ups became some of the most iconic images in Vanishing Point. Number 7. Barry Newman drove most highway scenes. Most actors perform a few safe shots and leave the rest to professionals. Barry Newman wasn't one of them. He drove roughly 80% of the highway footage himself, often at real-world highway speeds. During one sequence shot on public roads, the Challenger passed a patrol car that wasn't part of the production. The officer thought Newman was an actual reckless driver and began pursuit. The crew had to wave down the patrol unit mid-take and explain the situation. Newman later joked that Vanishing Point was the only film where he got chased by the cops both in the script and in real life. Number 6. A drift scene triggered real police response. Not every police appearance was accidental. In Nevada, the production staged a long, drifting sequence on an empty stretch of road. The tires screamed, dust clouds exploded, and the Challenger slid across lanes with perfect stunt precision. Locals, however, heard the noise and called law enforcement, reporting what they believed was an illegal street racing event. Multiple patrol cars arrived, blocking both ends of the road. The crew had to show permits and explain that the chaos was part of a movie. Officers reportedly told them, "If you didn't have paperwork, we'd be towing everything." Number 5. One Challenger was destroyed on a sand dune jump. The most dangerous moment in Vanishing Point wasn't the final crash, it was the dune jump. One stunt car hit the crest of a sand mound at high speed, launched violently into the air, and landed so hard that the front suspension collapsed and the frame twisted beyond repair. Crews reported that the engine mounts snapped and the oil pan exploded on impact. The car was so thoroughly destroyed that Dodge told the production to stop using real Challengers for stunt impacts. That decision later led to the infamous Camaro substitution in the finale. The dune jump wreck became a behind-the-scenes legend, the Challenger that died so the movie's biggest stunt could live. Number 4. Several scenes were filmed without full permits. Vanishing Point was shot fast, cheap, and often on the edge of legality. Several desert road sequences were filmed without full permits because the crew feared delays from local authorities. Instead, they adopted a guerrilla-style approach. Set up quickly, shoot the stunt, pack up before anyone official arrived. One assistant recalled watching the lookout crew scanning the horizon for dust clouds because dust meant incoming vehicles, possibly law enforcement. This risky tactic helped the filmmakers capture unrepeatable shots with perfect natural lighting, but it also meant they were often seconds away from being shut down. The raw, chaotic energy on screen wasn't just acting, it reflected the way the film was made. Number 3. Stunt driver Carrie Lofton defined the car style. Stunt legend Kerry Lofton didn't just drive the Challenger, he defined how the car would be remembered. Lofton handled the most dangerous maneuvers: high-speed drifts, lane-hopping slides, near-close calls with camera trucks, and the dune edge runs where one mistake meant a rollover. But Lofton also gave the car a personality. He insisted on subtle steering corrections, slight fishtailing, and controlled instability to make the Challenger feel alive, almost like a wild animal resisting the road. These choices created the iconic, restless driving style fans adore. What people believe is Kowalski's supernatural control is really Lofton choreographing chaos with absolute precision. Number 2. The final crash used a disguised Camaro. For many fans, the explosive finale of Vanishing Point is the most unforgettable image in the film. Kowalski's Challenger barreling toward the bulldozers, sunlight gleaming off its white paint before everything erupts into fire. But that heroic sacrifice never actually happened. Dodge issued a strict rule early in production: no Challenger could be destroyed on camera. The company wanted the car to appear unstoppable, not disposable. This left the filmmakers with a problem. They needed a brutally final ending. They needed destruction. And they needed it without touching the real hero cars. The solution was clever, cheap, and nearly invisible. The production found a 1967 Camaro in rough condition, stripped it down, rebuilt the front to resemble a Challenger's silhouette, repainted it white, and filmed it from angles that concealed the differences. By the time it slammed into the bulldozers, no one could tell the difference. Even in slow-motion analysis decades later, the edit hides just enough that casual fans still swear they saw a Challenger die. In reality, the legendary muscle car survived untouched. The car that exploded was a stand-in, a decoy sacrificed so the icon could live on. Number 1. The Challenger became a cultural icon. The Challenger wasn't just a car in Vanishing Point. It became a symbol, raw, rebellious, untamed. When the film premiered in 1971, critics were divided. The box office was disappointing, and the studio largely forgot it. But audiences didn't. The imagery of a lone driver racing through the American West spoke to a generation trapped between conformity and chaos. Kowalski's white Challenger wasn't simply outrunning police cars, it was outrunning society. Over time, the movie found new life in drive-ins, late-night TV, and car enthusiast circles. Fans studied every detail of the car. Musicians referenced it. Directors paid tribute to it. Tarantino even called Vanishing Point the epitome of car cinema mythology. What kept the legend alive wasn't just speed, it was meaning. The Challenger represented freedom taken to its extreme, a man pushing himself past the edge, a machine becoming an extension of pure will. And the greatest irony is that the car's mythic reputation came from chaos. Mismatched paint, multiple engines, dummy cars, audio tricks, camera illusions, overheating problems, and rushed guerrilla filmmaking. Out of that mess emerged something timeless. Today, the Vanishing Point Challenger stands shoulder to shoulder with the Bullitt Mustang and the Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am. It became more than metal and horsepower. It became a cultural mirror reflecting the wild desperation, hope, rebellion, and wanderlust of an entire era. Looking back at Vanishing Point, it becomes clear that the Challenger's legacy wasn't built on perfection. It was built on contradictions. 5 different cars pretending to be one. A manual that was actually an automatic. A roaring engine sound crafted in a studio. A finale filmed with a disguised Camaro. A production filled with improvisation, overheating engines, drifting sand, and last-minute decisions made in the middle of the desert. And yet, somehow, this chaos formed something unforgettable, something larger than the film itself. The Challenger became a symbol of rebellion because it was never polished, it was raw, restless, and imperfect, just like Kowalski, just like the America of the early 1970 seconds. What you see on screen is not a flawless machine, but a spirit, a refusal to slow down, a commitment to keep moving, even when everything is falling apart behind you. That's why the Challenger endured. That's why it still resonates after more than 50 years. In the end, the Vanishing Point Challenger is more than a movie car. It's a relic of a time when cinema was wilder, filmmaking was riskier, and a man behind the wheel could become a myth. And as long as people crave freedom, true, unfiltered, reckless freedom, the white Challenger will keep racing forever across the American desert in our collective imagination. If this deep dive into the Vanishing Point Challenger opened your eyes to the truth behind the legend, there's a lot more waiting. Every iconic movie car hides secrets, contradictions, and stories buried under decades of myths. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and join us as we continue unlocking the hidden files behind cinema's most unforgettable machines. Your next favorite revelation is just one video away.